Hello, everyone. This is Alan Bonde from TreviPay, and today I am thrilled to have Stephanie Friedman from Murphy Research with us. Hey, Stephanie.
Hello, good morning.
So today we want to talk about what buyers want. And as we know broadly, and specifically in B2B, having insight into their pain points, their preferences, their plans is super important, not just for the market, but also for vendors like TreviPay to understand, and most specifically for our brand sellers who are always thinking about what's missing, what's emerging, what's needed. And we were thrilled again to partner with Murphy Research and our friends at the Fletcher Group to create the latest installment of what we're calling internally our B2B buyer study. And so, what better person to help us sort of dig into the results is Stephanie. But maybe let's start at the beginning, a little bit about Murphy Research, because I'm not sure if the whole audience knows the work that you do, and then maybe segue into what we did specifically, what the goals were with the study.
Absolutely. Murphy Research is a boutique custom research agency based in Santa Monica, California. We're a custom agency, so we do research, qualitative, quantitative across a wide range of industries, both international and domestic. So we really find that we are able to design research to really answer any research question. We're going to design a custom study that really focuses on what each individual organization is trying to understand. And that's important to us, is there are no black box solutions to our research. We really want to understand what business question you want to address and design the study to meet your needs. And that's really our goal, is to work with our research partners to really help answer your unique needs and help make it actionable for your organization. So that's our goal. And everything we do is focused around our three pillars: creative design, rigorous execution, and actionable insights. And that's how we approach this research that we're going to talk about today.
That's awesome. So, and you're global in focus, right? Because I know even in this specific study, we looked at audiences in different geographies as well. So I assume you can field these studies pretty much in different locations.
Absolutely, yes. International is a huge focus for us. Obviously, domestic as well, but we've fielded research all over the world, and really taking a global perspective on work, as well as individual market focus, is critical to the work that we do.
So let's talk specifically about the B2B buyer study. And the audience may or may not know that this is not the first time we've done this. It's not quite longitudinal, but it's revisiting some of the things that we've looked at in the past. So maybe just a quick intro to sort of the goals for this study, and then we can segue into sort of how you fielded it in the audience and things like that, because we can nerd out a little bit, right? I've spent about half of my career in market research. Even if the audience hasn't done that, I think it's important to let people know, like, how does this happen, right? How do you find people? How do you construct a study that represents the broader trends, even though we can't ask everybody in the world what they want, but we can create a panel?
Yeah, absolutely. What we were trying to do with this research was we really wanted to understand their behaviors and their attitudes, both in the US and the UK, to better understand sort of the payment tools that they're using and the methods that they're using them, to really understand sort of what buyers want and how those loyalty factors into the process. You wanted to understand what the pain points are in their process, and then use that to identify opportunities to perfect that payment experience. And all of that was going to be used to inform marketing and sales strategies for your team, and for the Fletcher Group as well. That was really the goal of
Okay.
what we were trying to achieve with this research. To do that, we completed interviews with senior level decision makers. We're talking C-suite, senior finance team members at companies with 200 plus employees, with 100 million plus in annual revenue in both the US and the UK. And we wanted to do that with a broad spectrum of industries to reflect the marketplace. And what we wanted to explore was their behaviors, their attitudes, and their decision criteria. Those folks are not easy to find. So what we leveraged, a business focused panel, and rather than sort of use subscribed members, we used a more direct approach where we called in to lists of these types of members and really screened them directly to make sure these were the individuals that we wanted to talk to. And we used a very, very rigorous approach to ensure that we had the right decision makers on the phone before we went into the further interview process to make sure that we were getting the folks that were appropriate to address the types of questions we were trying to
And
answer.
so can I assume that this is a mix of there's different roles here involved, right? And this is one of the interesting things about B2B buying. And we saw this
Mm-hmm.
when I used to work at Forrester Research, is the emergence of the buying group. It's not just individuals, but rather there's a team of people, and those buying groups could include, the folks who are representing the technology expertise if they're buying tech products, procurement people, finance people. There's a whole range of different titles. So maybe just share like some of those, maybe in a generic way, some of those titles that we would have been interacting with that give I guess, the range of what that buying group might actually look like, because it's a pretty diverse group, right?
Absolutely. And so we talked to titles such as, finance and accounting, procurement, general management. It really did span a range of sort of titles and departments to make sure that we were getting the right title, the right responsibility within the different types of organizations that we were exploring. But it
Perfect.
was really about responsibility rather than title.
No, thank you for that point, because this is something that we continue to revisit, that when you talk about a buying group, people can have a title that says one thing, but they may be playing a different role within a large purchasing process or procurement process. So titles
Mhm.
give you clues, but don't necessarily tell the whole story in terms of what people are focused on.
And that's why in a study like this, we explore it from a couple of different angles. You can't just come at it from, you know, different type of industry, different type of title. You have to have a few more qualitative type questions to make sure you're getting to that responsibility.
So let's dive into, I guess, top level, some of the findings maybe that stood out to you, or findings that were surprising. And again, this isn't
Mhm.
exactly what we did a few years back, but it may be interesting to compare and contrast, like what's changed over the last few years. So maybe first question is like top level findings, things that stood out that are most meaningful to people who are trying to figure this whole payments and invoicing solution problem out.
Yeah, what I thought was the most interesting was, while the goal is to have this frictionless payment experience, there was no step in this process that was without pain. I mean, coming into the
That's
process,
that's good news and bad news.
yes, exactly, exactly. Onboarding, processes, invoicing, at each point that sort of it was compromised by potential, process friction. And that compromised the strength of the long-term relationship and loyalty to their relationship with their payment process. So it really there was opportunity at every stage in the process to improve and create a really strong relationship.
And what about the sort of decision process of even how people work with their providers, right? I mean, this is something we talk a lot about, but I know there's data here that says, to see if I get this right, that more than 8 out of 10 buyers research the payment options and providers before purchasing. So they're thinking about this even before they become a customer.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're doing their research and they're, doing what they can to inform themselves, but there's a lot of information that they're not able to find. And so they want to make sure that, there's something out there that gives them that level of security that who they're going to even begin to explore has that level of sort of credibility.
So if we flip this around, you talked about the good news is there's friction and there's opportunity across that whole process. Um, What did they say about like what makes for a good experience? So if they called out a lot of friction points, is there any clues in terms of if you're really an experience-oriented company? We know that a lot of our clients, whether they're in retail, whether they're in travel, especially in hospitality and airlines, they've been conditioned to think about it's all about loyalty, and they know that
Mhm.
loyalty starts not only at the payment, but also in terms of the experience. What about clues in terms of what people said would make for them a really great experience? If we flip it from what wasn't working, what is working, and how do they think about that in terms of like this experience made me more loyal?
One of the things that we found really interesting is we dug into those that were using trade credit more frequently than others, and those
Okay.
that used trade credit frequently were much more loyal to their provider. And that was an interesting exploration point because we found that, if they found it an easy process to use trade credit. Those that did not use trade credit frequently were using credit card as their short-term solutions, despite all the pain points that went along with using credit card as their frequent solution. So that was an interesting dichotomy that we think lends a lot of visibility into, well, if you find that solution, because trade credit, was about customization, finding the right payment solution for them. And those that had ended up using credit cards as that short-term solution, that brought a whole lot of back-end process challenges, but they had to use it because they needed to make their payments. So if you can find that solution that streamlined the whole process through and through, then you've got this loyalty that makes the whole process go from onboarding through invoicing through the processes, even through ERP. I mean, ERP was an interesting finding in and of itself.
Yeah, the
Uh,
integration requirements also, I think, is sneaky important, right? You don't think about
yes.
that, but I saw that called out as well, that the ability to integrate with those back-end systems may be more important than the front-end experience.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that was one of the interesting findings was that whole integration piece. How difficult it was to integrate a system into all of their processes. And we just it honestly, that was one of the biggest surprises for me was invoicing and payment and ERP. No one had really solved that issue.
So this is a great point to wrap. There's a ton more in this study. I've been talking with Stephanie Friedman from Murphy Research. I encourage everybody to check them out, but also if you'd like to get a look at some of the other details, we have a great ebook that you can download from TreviPay.com. We know this conversation will continue. We're just scratching the surface, but thank you so much for joining us, Stephanie, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you so much. This was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it.